As the song goes, baby, it's cold up there. Freezing cold, snow, and drenching rain. That's the forecast for millions of travelers for this year's Thanksgiving.
Today is already the busiest travel day of the year, but many people are also bracing for their commutes to be longer than ever, thanks to some sloppy winter weather. Caitlin Burke has the story.
Snow, slush, and rain are falling across the country today, just as more than 46 million people hit the roads. Getting anywhere quickly today is going to be nearly impossible. Snow is falling from Iowa to Wisconsin. Heavy rain is drenching the northwest and southeast, and a Thanksgiving nor'easter is pounding the East Coast.
Many travelers are scrambling to change their plans to beat the bad weather. Some leaving home earlier than planned, others trying to reroute around the storms.
I heard that there was snow coming in and everything, and I'm traveling by myself with the kids and the dog, so I wanted to get a head start.
Earlier this week, major airlines waived their ticket change fees to allow people to try and find earlier flights to their Thanksgiving destinations. But today, more than 200 flights have been canceled.
We always look at the weather. We look towards the sky. It can be our best friend and our biggest challenge.
Today's weather comes after an early snowstorm last week left parts of the Northeast buried under 7 feet of snow. And that early winter blast is still being felt across the north. Reports from MLive out of Michigan say the Great Lakes are already starting to ice over, the earliest ice on some of the Great Lakes in at least 40 years.
There is some good news for travelers. The forecast for the trip home on Sunday, nothing but sunshine. Caitlin Burke, CBN News.
Thanks, Katie. Well, you got to get there before you can come back. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. It's going to be great. Well, in other news, the police officer in Ferguson, Missouri, is now speaking out and telling his side of the story as more protesters take to the streets in Ferguson and across the country. Ephraim Graham has that story from the CBN newsroom. Here's Ephraim.
Pat, Tuesday night brought more protests in Ferguson. Although they were smaller than the night before, they included a police car being torched and officers arrested 44 people. And the police officer who shot 18-year-old Michael Brown is speaking out. Darren Wilson spoke to ABC's George Stephanopoulos. He described being attacked by Michael Brown while inside his police SUV.
And then as I'm holding him, I see him coming back around with his left hand. And it's in the shape like this, and it comes in through the window and just a solid punch to the right side of my face.
So you're still sitting there figuring out, how do I get out of this?
Yes. I mean, the next thing was, how do I survive? Because I didn't know
how
if
do
I
you survive?
Yes, I didn't know if I'd be able to withstand another hit like that.
Is there anything you could have done differently that would have prevented that killing from taking place?
No.
Nothing?
No.
And there were more protests in cities across the country, many of them peaceful. But in Oakland, looters ransacked businesses and set fires in the streets. President Obama also spoke out against that while in Chicago, saying he has no sympathy for demonstrators who destroy their own communities. Pat?
You know, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say this again. I believe that the African Americans in this society for decades have been subject to discrimination. There's no question about it. And there has been police brutality in various cities. There's no question about that. But right now, we live in what amounts to a pretty much even-tempered type of society. Police are very careful in dealing with people. They're trained to be careful with minorities. And the abuses of the past are pretty much a thing of the past. But this young man in Ferguson, listen, he went into a convenience store and he picked up some cigars, didn't pay for them, walked out. There's a video of him talking to the clerk and ignoring him and busting out right past him with this stolen property, puts it in his hand, walks up, he looks like he's in the middle of the road. He has marijuana in his possession, a packet of it. I don't know what he had been taking, if any. I don't know about his mental condition. But when this police officer tried to apprehend him, he charged the police officer, charged into his car and began beating on him. Now, what kind of thing is that? He resists arrest, he attacks a police officer, he robs a store. That doesn't make him a hero. That doesn't make him a martyr. It's none of those things. He's neither a hero nor a martyr, and it's certainly no excuse to burn a town apart, to overturn police cars, bring in the Al Sharptons of the world and other racial agitators, to have them come in from all over the country and talk about social justice. This isn't a case dealing with social justice. I'm all for social justice, and I think most of us are. But this case is somebody who may have been mentally disturbed. We don't know that. He may have been high on something. We don't know that. But whatever it was, the police officer had to defend himself, and he was attacked in his police car. So why don't they just cool it? And I wish the president had stood up instead of saying, well, there are people who may disagree with the grand jury verdict. What he should have said is what I just finished saying. The young man was breaking the law, and he should have been restrained, and he did things that were, you know, not in keeping with law and order. If he'd said that, it'd been a whole lot better. Well, there's good news from Texas, and Ephraim has that.
Pat, the Texas Board of Education has approved new history textbooks for students to use next fall. This decision comes after a bitter ideological fight. The vote broke down along party lines, with the 10 Republican board members voting for books and software that included mention of America's rich religious heritage. The 5 Democrats on the board opposed the move. Liberal activists and a group of 52 university professors protested that emphasis. A leading Democratic senator now says it was a mistake for Democrats to pass Obamacare when they did. New York Senator Charles Schumer says the public wanted action on the economy in 2010 during the recession. Instead, after passing the economic stimulus package, Democrats focused on pushing Obamacare through Congress. And Schumer says that was the wrong thing for his party to do.
But it wasn't the change we were hired to make. Americans were crying out for the end to the recession, for better wages and more jobs, not changes in health care.
Schumer also says passing Obamacare led to the rise of the Tea Party movement, which helped Republicans win huge victories in the 2010 and 2014 midterm elections. Pat, something tells me there are other Democrats who would agree.
Well, I am astounded and frankly delighted. Chuck Schumer can be a very charming and engaging type of person when he wants to be. And he unveiled the truth in that Meet the Press interview, and I think, of course, it's like gone viral. It's been seen all over everywhere. But they're finally telling the truth. Unfortunately, we're saddled with that legislation. Now, when Republicans get control and they begin to take an action on repealing Obamacare, will the Chuck Schumers of this world go along, or will they be in lockstep with the president? It looks like they're trying to get off the ship as fast as they can and abandon the president. That's what that interview or that speech before the National Press Club was. Ephraim.
Well, Pat, you are now going to know just how many calories you are eating when you dine at your favorite chain restaurant. A new mandate by the Food and Drug Administration means all restaurants with 20 or more locations are required to post calorie content, quote, clearly and conspicuously on menus and displays. Some food chains already do this. Those who do not have until November of next year to make the changes. And speaking of calories, chocolate certainly has its share. And as most people know, chocolate comes from cocoa beans. Researchers at Columbia University recently reported that a key ingredient in cocoa could sharpen the memories of older people. But as Lori Johnson reports, that doesn't mean you can plan on overdosing on chocolate during the holidays.
The antioxidants found in dark chocolate called cocoa flavanols, which come from cocoa beans, appear to reverse the subtle memory loss that comes with normal aging. That's according to a Columbia University study. In just 3 months, test subjects regained the memory strength of a person 25 years younger.
What we found is that 50 or 60-year-olds who consumed a high cocoa flavanol diet had an improvement in memory, and it seemed to originate from a particular part of the brain that we know is targeted by normal aging.
Unfortunately, the cocoa flavanols had no effect on a different part of the brain targeted by Alzheimer's disease. The study required participants to consume a drink containing 450 milligrams of cocoa flavanols, equaling what's in 7 dark chocolate bars. With that in mind, is it a good idea or not to eat a lot of dark chocolate every day in order to reverse the natural memory loss that comes with aging?
It is true that cocoa flavanols are found in chocolate, however, only in very small amounts. Consuming a lot of chocolate is simply bad for your health, so categorically not.
Most chocolate is high in sugar and calories. The amount of cocoa flavanols in a typical dark chocolate bar is 53 milligrams. Milk chocolate only contains 13.
But one of the things I find appealing about the study is that we're essentially suggesting that lifestyles, diet, can actually ameliorate a normal process, which I find appealing because it means we don't necessarily need a pharmaceutical agent.
The study only followed 37 people, but based on the results, Columbia plans to replicate it in a larger study. Lori Johnson, CBN News.
Pat, we know you're a big lover of dark chocolate.
I am, but I want to make it clear that's not milk chocolate. Milk chocolate tastes sweet, and you got it in candy bars and Hershey bars. That's not it. It's the 72, 75, 78% cocoa. It's sometimes a little bitter. I take 3 of those squares, and it cuts down your appetite for any kind of sweets, and it also it helps me remember, what's his name over here? Whoever you are, would you tell us, do you take that too?
Well, I'm with you. I love dark chocolate, and every once in a while I'll have milk chocolate too because it's so good too.
Yeah,
but, you know, but the 85% is hard to get. That's an acquired taste.
72 will make it fine.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay. That's what I use, 72. Okay. But I take 3 squares of those things, and it's just amazing.
We just keep on finding out more and more good things about dark chocolate.
Well, if you watch this program, you're going to be healthy and live forever. Ephraim.
Pat, Thanksgiving is a special time for a family of gourmet cooks who travel the world to feed people during disasters. They're called Mercy Chefs, and this year their mobile kitchens are on the road in 5 cities to serve at least 5,000 people. But the team of volunteers is marking an even bigger milestone. Mercy Chefs is on the road this Thanksgiving, dishing up delicious hot meals to people in need. This is the Thanksgiving tradition for the ministry that spends the rest of the year feeding victims of some of the country's biggest disasters.
Every year we try to pick a location that we've worked during the year in a disaster to go back at Thanksgiving. Well, this year, without any big disasters, we've come to several locations that have very trying situations financially. And we're doing Thanksgiving in communities with existing ministries.
The marathon feeding tour began in 3 cities in Virginia, Norfolk, Suffolk, and Hampton, and continued to Texas, with multiple stops in Dallas and here in San Antonio.
Right here on Zarzamora and Poplar, it's considered one of the worst, it's one of the darkest areas. So what we do, we like to go into the darkest areas of the city of San Antonio and just bring the light, which is Jesus Christ.
Pastor Jim Robles routinely works in this area of San Antonio with his Last Chance Ministries. Mercy Chef's work is helping him to expand his reach at Thanksgiving, from hundreds to thousands.
When I just saw that chef that got off the vehicle earlier and actually dressed like a chef, it was probably kind of impressive, you know, to be able to see them in full uniform. And to me, it's like a soldier on duty, ready to rock and roll.
Chef Gary LeBlanc started Mercy Chefs in 2006, answering God's call for him to simply go feed people.
Something amazing happens over a shared meal. We do it as family, we do it as friends, but to be able to go into a challenging situation, whether it's a storm or poverty, and share that meal with somebody, it makes a connection that lasts.
Food is just a door opener, because there's other needs in the community.
Mercy Chefs is also opening that door in Dallas this Thanksgiving, partnering with Youth World. The nonprofit learning center reaches some of the city's most at-risk children.
I think it's changing lives. I know it's changing lives. It's changing attitudes. Just knowing that somebody cares, that makes a huge impact right there.
Mercy Chefs has been feeding people for 8 years and partnering with ministries at Thanksgiving for the last 6. This Thanksgiving, they plan to feed at least 5,000. But the ministry is reaching another big milestone, its millionth meal.
I had no idea about that kind of quantity. I mean, 1 million meals. I mean, we've done it 100, 250, 1,000 at a time, and it's just added up over 8 years. It's an amazing watermark for us. We're really excited about. We're going to see how quickly we're able to do the next million.
1 million meals in 8 years. Pat, that's pretty impressive.
Well, I tell you, those guys can cook. They say Mercy chefs, they are professional, high-level cooks, and the food is delicious. So when you're not looking just some soup kitchen, I mean, these guys are giving gourmet food out to these poor people, and the response is enormous. Now, when Sandy hit New York, the Mercy sets were there. When Katrina hit in New Orleans, they were involved there. Where there have been disasters around the world, and especially here at home, tornadoes and other devastation, Mercy chefs show up. People appreciate a hot meal because a lot of times the food stores are closed, the grocery stores are closed, their own houses and kitchens have been devastated. There's power shortages, etc. Mercy Chef shows up, they've got mobile kitchens, and in they come. So anyhow, it's a great charity, and you can keep that in mind. I don't have an address. I could give a pitch to say where you could send a contribution, but it's really a wonderful thing they're doing. 1 million meals. Did you ever eat any of their food?
I did. I was covering a hurricane somewhere, and I had the best cheeseburger that I've ever had from them.
It's delicious.
And I still remember it. It was so good. I think I was, like you said, you're out there, you're wet, you're cold, you're tired, and you're hungry, and then somebody gives you something hot, and even when you're a reporter, hey, you appreciate it.
Well, down in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, during the 9/11 tragedy, those firemen and other people who were working that disasters didn't have any food, and Mercy Chefs was there feeding them, and I mean, it made such a difference to them.
Food is a ministry. It really, really is.
I never thought of it that way,
Really
but I
is.
think the trouble is we've got too much of it for all of us, but nevertheless, these guys are good. Gary LeBlanc he is a very gifted chef. I mean, the food, he's from New Orleans, and it's good food.
It's wonderful.
Well,
that
happy Thanksgiving. What's next?
An Oklahoma lawmaker has ordered a new Ten Commandments monument for the State House lawn. This comes after someone intentionally smashed a car into the old one. Republican State Representative Mike Ritz's family paid $10,000 for that original monument. The 6-foot-tall display was put up in 2012. The new one will also be paid for with private funds. A judge upheld the monument in September, but the American Civil Liberties Union has appealed to the Oklahoma Supreme Court. And in today's edition of Family Entertainment News, America's favorite Christian animated vegetables are coming to Netflix.
He may have his flaws, but I'll take warts and all. He's my very best friend.
A VeggieTales spin-off series called VeggieTales in the House launches today. Each episode is composed of 2 11-minute stories with songs. Today we're hearing from the co-creators of the show about why the Netflix series was created.
The advantage of the shows being on Netflix is that it's so easy for people to discover them and then to share them. Just the fact that a mom can be shopping in the grocery store with their kids, and their kids are, getting cranky, getting antsy, and you can give them your phone with the Netflix app and watch 11 minutes of VeggieTales and actually get a little, moral lesson. I mean, that's really cool.
VeggieTales in the House provides a look at where the veggies live their everyday lives and is intended to complement the DVD series through a more traditional show. The creators of the show say even though the cartoon may have a new look, the values are staying the same. Remember, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website, cbnnews.com.